Hi everyone. I want to make a quick video today about supposed censorship and deplatforming, and why that the term deplatforming is sort of a false narrative that's been invented by the alt-right, so they can make up claims of censorship and act like they're oppressed, even though they're arguably overrepresented in the media. I thought this was a good time to do it, based on the recent suspension / banning of Alex Jones of Infowars and his whole cabal of people off of YouTube and Twitter and whatnot. You can probably tell I've never done a video like this before, or really any video. So if I've completely messed up post-processing, or if I'm too close to the mic or whatever, just feel free to tear me a new asshole. I feel like it's probably what I should expect being on YouTube. All right. So I've heard a lot recently, especially on social media, Twitter, YouTube, and all that good stuff, about how people are being, deplatformed, and therefore they're being censored from having any sort of interaction in political discourse. And I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in there and say that this is sort of, well, people will say that it's censorship and that it's an affront to free speech, and that there's a sort of a war on free speech, especially coming from the political left onto the political right. We hear this all the time, that the left hates free speech and the left is afraid of free speech and things like that. I'm a leftist. I don't consider myself afraid of free speech in any way. I want to hear what people have to say, but there's no legal guarantee, there's no constitutional guarantee that you have any platform to speak on. Not that you don't have any platform, that you have any platform. You don't have the absolute right to go anywhere and say anything. That's not necessarily how the Constitution was supposed to work, and it's definitely not how it's legally enforced or interpreted. For example, I went on Infowars today, which is something I've actually not done in a long time. I actually had been on there a long time ago when I was younger and a little less intellectually discerning, maybe a little more intellectually curious and a little more intellectually stupid. So I went on there and I thought, because when a friend of yours, when something tragic happens to them, you kind of want to, peek in and see if they're handling it well, if they're not having some kind of breakdown or something like that. So I went on to Infowars, and the first thing there's a parody video. It's called "Video, Watch What Happens When Alex Jones Finds Out He Was Censored." And then the tagline is, "No globalist is safe." It's not attributed to anybody, and it's dated August the 8th, 2018. Some reason it says he was censored, even though I'm on his website that he's hosting, and there's a little tag that says "The Alex Jones Radio Show, listen now," and has his RSS feed and his Twitter and his little link to his shop, Infowars, buy my notsoyproducts.com, that actually have soy in them. So he thinks the popular belief that's being spoken from people in his, for lack of a better word, camp, or his ideological peers, I guess, is that he's been censored. That's not really how it works, though. When someone says you can't come onto my platform, in this case it was Google with their YouTube platform, and says you can't say these specific things. He's had a lot of sort of outlandish claims. Everything from the kind of famous gay frogs, and he's had more benign things about Hillary Clinton being in the election. He spoke a lot about Hillary Clinton being sick and how she was dying, ranging from that to Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton assassinating people, and just kind of all sorts of unsubstantiated and also kind of unhinged speech, depending on where you might stand. Well, so now he's coming out with his claim, even though I don't know if he wrote this. One of his staffers did, because it's on Infowars.com. There's no, like I said, there's no writer attributed to this article. It just says Infowars.com. And then on the bottom, there's a sort of a tagline. It's "Mass censorship of conservatives and libertarians is exploding," which, it's pretty transparent. There's a subscribe to newsletter tab in the same little ident where the mass censorship is, and there's also, of course, a donate now tab, which takes PayPal, MasterCard, and Visa. So if you have any extra money you want to go and you don't want to buy any weird vitamin B supplements or whatever else he's selling on his website, you could just give money straight to the source. I would suggest you don't do that, but to each his own. So this complaint about censorship, the government isn't stopping anyone from speaking or holding any political opinion or any opinion at all for that matter. A private company, YouTube, had basically told someone who was saying incredibly controversial and untrue things that you no longer can come onto our platform and, espouse this. And that's not censorship. That's, it really is, something that conservatives like to talk about. It's private business making their own decision. It's the same principle that leads them to say that a gay person can't expect a cake from a Christian baker because they have the right of self-determination to not serve a person who's gay because that's their political belief. Obviously, that's different because, well, people don't choose to be gay. People choose to espouse nonsense on YouTube and InfoWars and Twitter and whatnot. It's sort of the same principle that if, for example, I were to have a bar and I was hosting some kind of open mic night and somebody grabbed the mic, say Alex Jones went up there and he ripped his shirt off because that's sort of one of his favorite things to do on camera. And he starts espousing nonsense about how the Sandy Hook massacre was, false flag and there were crisis actors and the children were all fake. And somebody wanted to cut him off from the microphone. They could say, you're not allowed to come in here and act like that because, for whatever reason, maybe their family's here, maybe people don't want to hear it, maybe I just want to hear it and it's my restaurant or my bar, so you have to get out. And that's not what censorship is. It's a person or a platform or a company deciding that, moving forward, we've decided not to engage in that kind of really harsh and harmful and just sort of like disgusting conspiracy. It's flatly just a conspiracy theory. And the whole notion of deplatforming, you hear a lot from people like Ben Shapiro and Milo Yiannopoulos and a lot of other pundits. Ann Coulter said this about not being welcome or not being wanted at a particular venue, usually universities. It's an attempt to censor people. They're trying to close down free speech. They're trying to make sure that I can't hold my ideas or whatever. And that's obviously not true. The Constitution doesn't guarantee that you can go to Berkeley and talk shit. It's really up to the faculty or up to the students. In this case, it was kind of up to the students. And a lot of those cases where they ended up rioting, which a lot can be said about whether it's right to destroy things or cause upheaval not to get specific people to speak your college. But I think at the end of the day, it is their tuition that's paying for these things. Even if I know a lot of cases like the Republican, like the Young Republicans or whoever, they raise the money and have the person come. Anyway, true, but you also have a situation where the facilities are being provided by the university and the university was built with tuition that the kids are paying. And, if they're using electricity, if they're using the lights or the facilities or the mics or whatever, it is sort of a situation where the speaker needs a place to stay and the students it's like sort of it's not just their home, like they live there on the campus. They also support the campus through their tuition. And that's sort of, and if you don't want to have that particular person or a person who has that kind of particular, hardline right-wing view at a campus, I don't think you should put up with that as a student. I think that if you want to be, silly disobedient to stop something like that happening, I think that's, you're well within your rights to do that. So this whole idea of, being deplatformed, a lot, not being on Twitter isn't a constitutional crisis. Not being on Twitter, these people act like they're being, thrown in prison as political dissidents, but really, Alex Jones he's had the current president on his radio show before. He's not mainstream, but too close to the mainstream to be considered just a nobody crackpot like he would have been, 10 years ago. Like when I first heard about Alex Jones, it was probably in 2012 or 2013. And he was just sort of he was on YouTube, and he was just sort of a weird guy. Like he made these sort of insane videos about all sorts of topics, and whatever it would be, you know, some kind of religious thing or some kind of environmental thing, whatever the problem was, it would come back to him trying to sell something, whether it was himself as a brand or some product he was peddling at the time. And I thought he was kind of entertaining at first. Like I did watch some of his stuff a long time ago, like, and I was somewhat familiar with him as a person. So in like 2016, I heard that, you know, he was like, well, I know he didn't really go away, but he'd been around. But I saw, you know, I was watching like either MSNBC or CNN. It was something that was on at the gym, and I was there, and I saw, you know, the closed captions are on because, you know, you can't hear. It's like public TV. I remember hearing it, or hearing them talk about it. I saw the, you know, the words on the bottom of the screen. Like Alex Jones was mentioned, and it was some random like between big news story where it's just sort of like, you know, Hillary's not speaking, Trump isn't speaking, Bernie's not speaking. They just have to kind of have something to fill the time. And, you know, during campaign years, everything about the campaign is news. You know, no matter big or small, it's always what's relevant in the news. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, why would they bring up a relatively small, by comparison to like Fox News or CNN or something, you know, a relatively, I would say almost unknown in mainstream circles. I mean, I knew about him, but I was also, you know, below the age demographic who would watch cable news, and I was more familiar with, you know, getting the news online. I know that's like not necessarily a dirty word now or something, especially people who are probably going to listen to this are probably going to be younger aged people, because you're getting, I don't know if this is considered news, you're getting your political opinion, news, entertainment, whatever, from YouTube. So it probably doesn't seem that outlandish, but, you know, people who regularly watch CNN probably didn't know who Alex Jones was. I mean, even 5 years ago, you know. And I think a lot of people still don't know who he is, but he's making quite a bit of a stink over this, being, you know, disinvited from YouTube. I don't know if that's the best turn of phrase, but he's not here anymore. But you can still go to his website. He still has, you know, his little show and his podcasts and a lot of weird dietary supplements that he's really pushing. And I mean, there's a lot of videos on YouTube about these are scams, and it's like a step above Herbalife and whatnot. And I, you know, be that as it may, and I suspect it may be, you know, whatever, you know, Brain Force Plus, super male vitality, super female vitality, you know, whatever particular item he's selling is probably not the best thing on the market for whatever ailment you're trying to heal. And even if it was, the money you're making is going to someone who, you know, denies Sandy Hook and believes it's some kind of left-wing conspiracy to ban guns, and, you know, enact martial law. So probably just go to CVS or something, or, you know, wherever, you know, your fine supplements are sold. So I'm not sure how well my point came across in this video. Again, I apologize. I'm very new at this. So if you have any criticism, I'm sure you'll be more than willing to share it with me. Well, thanks for listening this far, and all right, have a good one.